You're listening to Wanna Coffee with Kai Alicia.
And Adriana.
Talking
Random.
sensible
Shit.
with Wanna Coffee. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. It is, of course, Kai and Chris instead of Adriana.
Hello.
And it will be like this for the next couple of days or weeks, sorry. Our topic for today, an interesting topic, one I kind of think about, I'd say on a regular basis, is reality TV. It's unbelievable. It's been an unbelievable, I feel like, force in our culture now, in our society for quite a while. And I feel like, who was the one to kind of start that? It was like, what was it, like Road Rules?
The Real World.
Real World?
Yes, back in the 90s. I don't remember if it was like early 90s, mid 90s, but yeah. I remember that because you've never seen anything like that. Where they picked like, what was it, like 6 or 8 people from like various parts of the country, different ethnicity. It was kind of edgy in the 90s too, because like you weren't used to seeing like people of different races really interacting as much. So there was that component too. But I felt like the first, do you remember The Real World? Like the original? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And I loved it. I loved The Real World.
It was awesome in the beginning.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good before it started to become scripted.
Yeah. Because I don't remember if it was like season 2 or 3, but originally they were a lot calmer, a lot more rational people. It was just like genuine people, just kind of like, you know, getting to know other people type thing and kind of like enjoying like a 20s experience. And then there was that one guy, I think his name was like, if it was Puck or there was a black guy too. I think his name was like David or something, but I don't remember if it was the same season. But they were
remember he slapped the girl with Lyme disease?
Yes. They were like insanely dramatic. And then I don't know if that just increased ratings a lot or somehow they figured out this is where we're going. Like, this is it. And they abandoned the original kind of like concept and then just went to taking the most crazy dramatic people you could find on earth, preferably mentally unstable, and throwing them in an environment. And then just like, and then they figured out like the way to ratchet it up another level is to make all these people like porn star hot and throw them in there with like a jacuzzi and like all these things that would be just perfect places to have sex, and throw them in there and see what happens. And that's kind of the way it's been ever since. It's just hot, sexy people just acting crazy.
Honestly, but it's like, I'd like to go back to this topic in particular in why, like, you liked it too. And you don't really like watch reality TV, as I know, right? You don't really watch reality TV anymore, right? But
no,
you did, and you liked it for a little bit, right? You loved Real World. And I loved it too. Like, I could not wait. Oh, the other show I really liked was, I think it was on Nickelodeon. It was called Camp Anawana.
Nickelodeon had a reality TV show?
Yes.
Wow. I almost want to watch that just to see like what that was. I can't imagine.
Anawana.
Wow.
It was awesome. And it's like, it was just showing like kids like going to camp. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is awesome. As a young, you know, like as like, whatever, I'm like 12 or whatever, like loving the shit. But it was a combination of reality TV and also like, just like info. Kind of had like a Reading Rainbow vibe, but less about books and more about like camp, you know? So it was cool. It was cool to see. And it showed like, you know, the campers like having crushes on each other and then having to leave at the end of camp and crying. And kumbayaing. It was just, for my little like 12-year-old self, it was like, oh man, I love camp. This is so cool. I remember, like we do that every summer and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that was there, but it's like, I'm curious to find out why we liked those shows in the beginning. Why?
I feel like a good reality TV show, because I feel like there probably are some. They make so many of them. I mean, they have like certain channels that all they do is show reality TV shows, like Bravo, and I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting that has like all reality TV shows. So there probably are some good ones, and I've seen some over the years that were enjoyable. But I feel like a good reality TV show is kind of exposing you to a reality that you don't experience and are likely to never experience, but maybe are curious about. Because obviously, like if it's exposing you to something you have no interest in, you're not going to watch. So it has to be something that you're kind of like, oh, that's I'm interested to learn more about that. And with the Real World originally, it was kind of like different cultures. So like as a white kid from rural Indiana, like seeing black people and like other minorities from different parts of the country, like not in like the stereotypical movie role that you would normally see, but actual in like different personalities and things like that. Because I remember one of the seasons had like a gay dude on there, a black gay guy, but unless he told you, it wasn't like he wasn't a stereotypical gay guy. Like this was a dude who kind of, I don't know, this is back in like the gangster rap era too. Like he kind of, if I remember correctly, like he kind of dressed a little thuggish, what we call thuggish back then. The Timbs, the baggy pants, like macho as hell, buff as hell too. But then he was also gay, and it was like, oh, that's mind blowing shit. Like I've never even, that's something that never even entered my mind. So it was like, I'm fascinated by this. Like I want to learn more about this. And it kind of was like helping you evolve your kind of view of the world. But I don't feel reality TV mostly these days kind of engages you in that way anymore. Like my girlfriend watches a lot of these Real Housewives of different places. They got like one in like every city now. It seems like they got one in Australia. Real Housewives of Australia. I think she watches that one too.
Are you kidding me?
Maybe, I'm not sure. But they also have like these dating shows. Melbourne. They have one in Melbourne, but they have these dating shows. Like this show here, it's called like Married at First Sight or something like that, where like a love guru somehow like meets you and does a personality profile
Yes.
and meets you together, all
Yes.
that stuff. That's been on for like 10 seasons, and I was, a lot of these things are fascinating the first time you see it because you're like, oh, that's an interesting concept. But then like you'll watch the first season or the first two seasons, you're like, oh, it's a good show. And then by the time you get to like season 4 or 5, you're like, this show went off the rails somewhere. Like, I don't know where, but this is not the same show anymore. And that's kind of like, I feel like it's the danger of reality TV shows. It's like eventually they all kind of go off the rails. But originally they start off as like good, like they have like an interesting concept and it's informative, and then it kind of just seems to always go off the rails. And I don't know, maybe Keeping Up the Kardashians used to be good in season 1 or 2. I don't know. I didn't watch that.
I think they were more boring actually, in the beginning. I kind of feel like there's something really unique about reality TV in that it's you're watching people have these normal reactions to these events that happen, which wouldn't normally probably happen to you. Mm. And in that, there's a sense of safety that you have, knowing that like this will never happen to you, and you'll never be put in that situation. And so it's like kind of this satisfying relief of like, even though it's like, like Real World, it's like, oh, that's really cool. There's a safety in that, like, oh, thank God that didn't happen to me. Thank God I wasn't the girl that David smacked.
Yeah.
Or like, thank God, like, I don't have to live with these like random people, even like, what if I don't like that guy? Or what if I do like that guy? Or what, like, thank God I don't have to have the camera in my face 24/7. I think that there's something alluring about the fact that it's, quote, not happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be.
Outside of the whole, like, now obviously it's turned into something else, but I still think it carries that element of like, well, it's not happening to me, and that's like a good, like that's good. So like now I can watch it and escape, or go into a different reality of which is happening, but isn't me, or is nothing that I'll ever have to face. So there's like a sort of this like nice sort of like, I'm just gonna curl up on my couch and watch some bullshit about someone of which I don't ever have to deal with. Haha. You know? I've never watched any of the Housewives shows, but like, there's
Wow.
so many.
Yeah.
There's so many, the basketball wives and the blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah. And I can see why so many people, so many women, so many people like the shows. I can see why they're addictive.
They're very I don't know if it would be considered like more psychological or emotional, but they definitely have a formula, and I feel like it's highly manipulative to make you addicted, because it gives you kind of these like rushes and like your chemicals, your brain chemicals, because it'll give you like these emotional highs where it's like it always builds up to like this fight where it's like these two girls getting catty, and then it kind of makes you like, you usually pick a side. You're like, oh no, she was in the wrong, and then it's like this big fight, and then you're invested. Like, because if I watch it with my girlfriend, like I'll notice I'll start like getting invested a little bit, and then I'm like, no, I gotta walk away. It's pulling me in, because it's meant to pull you in and just make you just want to like crack.
Yeah, it is meant to pull you in. I think the reality TV has now changed to what you're saying, which is like it's highly sexualized. It's it's very like gimmicky. I think it's very like it's very, and when I say gimmicky, I feel like it's just there to produce reactions so that you continue to come back and watch the shows. But I have to admit there's a couple of like like I really like there's a baking show reality TV series where like it's all about like um creating these like elaborate types of sweets and sugary treats by people who are not necessarily good at baking or have no interest in baking.
Oh,
And
I've seen those on cooking, like TV or the Food Network or whatever. They have some shows like that.
yeah, and I find them interesting because I like sugar and I like desserts, and I like seeing the pressure added to these people, seeing them panic
Yeah.
doing this shit, and then seeing what they actually produce, and it just being terrible and it to what they're actually supposed to produce, and it like somehow makes me feel a little bit better knowing like, well shit, I could probably do, I think to myself like, oh, shit, I could probably do that. And even though that person was sweating their balls off, like I think I could probably like not sweat and do it in half the time, and and so I don't know, I always grapple with it too, because my husband always goes like, oh, you're gonna watch this shit, you're gonna put this shit in your brain.
Sounds
And I'm
like
just like,
me.
what, fuck you, don't judge me, I got enough going on in this brain, and I just want to like zone out. I just want to watch stuff that doesn't have to be so stimulating. But he's like, but it is. Aren't you stimulated?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I am, I guess. Yeah. Like I could watch those programs and be semi-stimulated, and interested. I won't go fully and say stimulated because I feel like that's unfair.
Yeah.
You're very stimulated by this program, and I know I'm not all the way stimulated, but I am. There's a charge, right, of excitement and interest.
I kind of view them as like distractions from your brain. Like, it's just allows you to turn your brain off, but still continue to function, but just turn it off for a minute.
Yeah, not have to think about your own life.
Yeah.
You can like literally look at somebody else's life and be like, oh shit, that's not happening to me. Thank God. You know, good or bad, or like, wow, that's not happening to me. That's an interesting life, you know. The Kardashians finished their like what 14th season,
Yeah, something.
and they're no longer. You really don't pay attention to those headlines, huh? On reality TV.
Yeah.
Um,
That show's been on long enough for a girl to go from like a elementary student to talking about WAP. So it's been on too
yeah,
long. Like if I'm seeing her about to show the WAP, like no.
yeah, it's been around for a long time. It should have been off air, I think, like a long time ago. Like I think I watched 2 episodes from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But I never really got into it. After the whole scripted thing, I just became disenchanted. Um, I did really like all those like Judge Alex and Judge Judy shows, and
Oh yeah. You know what I think would be
um,
like a great reality TV show? The would be like if they actually started following around um like kind of like the same, I don't know, I don't want to say the same format, like trying to hype up the drama and all that stuff, but the same kind of concept of like this group of friends or whatever, this person in their social network in a place, but actually like follow around some like normal working class people somewhere, like show what other normal people are living like, because every reality TV show is like these millionaires just it basically seems like they don't ever work and they just do.
oh no, oh my gosh, there's kind of a show like that, sort of Undercover Boss.
I've never seen that. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Is that still on?
I think so. Undercover Boss is kind of good. Like,
I'll have to check that out because I feel like that's kind of what
yeah, it,
Roseanne presents on TV in the form of like television shows. Is like Roseanne is the only television show I know of that is about like normal working class people, whereas like every other television show is about like professionals. Like they're like like How I Met Your Mother is a good example. Very popular show, but they try to make it seem like these people are normal people, but it's like one's a lawyer, one's like some mysterious like high business professional, and the other one's an architect. It's like these are not normal. These are like upper class jobs. These are not normal people. Like normal people don't have the this lifestyle, the access to all these things. But I feel like that'd be interesting, especially given everything that's like, because that used to be normal on TV before I think the Reagan era. It's like I think they said in like the 60s and 70s, like 80 or 90% of shows on TV were about like normal working class people,
mm,
families and stuff like that. But then in the 80s, it shifted to a more of a focus on the upper class. And then we've just stayed there ever since the 80s. Like 70-80% of TV shows now are all about like wealthy people and like upper class people. It's like
mm,
that's an interesting thing to me. Like I feel like we need to get more shift that balance back the other way. Start showing
mm.
normal people like what other normal people are living like. Because a lot of times you think I'm crazy or like I'm the only one living like this, and then you realize you don't realize that shit. Maybe half the country's living like you. You just nobody ever talks about it. But
Mm-hmm.
reality TV
Well,
might open up some of those stigmas to like start, because a lot of people don't want to admit they're struggling. Like they try to be proud. Because I work with poor people, a lot of poor people, because we don't get paid much, and it's like, man, you start trying to get people to talk about struggles, you know, try to
mm,
get, it's hard. Like people always try to put on that front, like, nah, I'm doing all right. Nah, I'm doing all right. It's like, man, I know how much rent is. I know how much we make. You ain't doing all right. And you got kids. I don't have kids. Like, come on, be honest with me. But
mm.
I don't know. I feel like reality TV could help break down some of those stigmas, especially like we're trying to get people to, be more aware of like LGBTQ stuff and like racial stuff. I just feel like reality TV presents like a very unique format to kind
But
of,
yes, but now it's more a false narrative.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, you're right. You're
it
right.
does present
Unlike,
this beautiful format that could be used to kind of push those things in a really informative way without
yes,
people feeling like it's being preached to them. It's more just like
yes,
you're witnessing it, and then you're kind of once people, because that's the way I didn't pop out the womb like woke. I didn't pop out the womb like gay rights, but once you kind of see certain things, you can't unsee them, and it's kind of like
right.
it forces you to kind of be like, oh, my opinion was wrong or my view on this was wrong. This
Right.
person, I feel like reality TV does present an amazing format, but we're just not
Mm.
utilizing it because we're trying to utilize it to make profit, which is, you know, fighting and drama instead of like to do good things for society and
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, to do good things for society. And our president is a reality TV star. What are the
exactly
odds?
exactly. I never saw that show. Did you watch his show?
What?
Did you watch his show? I never did.
Apprentice? No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'm not really into reality TV. Like I was. When I say I was, I mean in the 90s.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? But like just I worked as part of production for Fox a long time ago in Los Angeles. And so when I worked for that time, it was a very short time, but when I worked for that time, seeing what the producers had to do to make the show more interesting, even if it was for like for example, do you remember Judge Alex?
Sounds familiar.
They would go into one dressing room where where the defendant was, and would say, "Did you know that so and so did A, B, C, and D and didn't tell you?" And they'd be like, "What? He did?
What the fuck?"
Yeah, to rev them up, and it may be true, it may be false. Most of the time, it was true, but it was stuff that obviously the other guy didn't want the producer telling them.
Yeah.
Wow. Or they wouldn't normally know unless like, I don't know, like they wouldn't normally know. Yeah. And so once I realized that this was happening, so some of it was scripted and some of it was just like, yeah, I found this out, bitch. So where it wasn't necessarily scripted, but they were already heated going into things,
Yeah.
And so I would just see it happen. I'd be like, but this is not how it was supposed to have been, even though it's true, or like these are real responses, natural responses from that person. It was like, this shit was just being brought out of thin air. It shouldn't have been part of discussion, So
yeah.
Once I saw that happening, that was in 2009. Once I really saw that happening, I really had just a general distaste for everything. I thought like everything was just fake. Television shows, reality TV shows. I just thought everything was just, nah, they probably lied about that. They lied about that. That's not really happening. And I just realized that more and more things are scripted. And so that sucks. But anyway, I could keep talking forever about this reality TV. If you watch it, no hard feelings. Do your thing. If you don't watch it, do your thing. But make sure if you do watch it, I feel like you need that balance because it's not real.
Yeah. Just don't overconsume it.
You need that balance. So anyway, we will see you next week. Thanks for listening. We want to know what you think.
Send us your comments and follow us on Twitter and Facebook
at #WannaCoffeePod.
Oh my God. Orange is not my new black.